I think you have to jump before you even feel ready. I think a lot of the times we wait and we're like, oh, I've got to be ready. I got to have X credentials, whatever it says on, whether it's a job description, you feel like you got to hit every one of them. But I think a lot of the times there's other people that are just jumping for it and going for it, and they get a lot further ahead because you're sitting overthinking and worrying and feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I don't have enough skills, or whatever it is.
Hi, I'm Natalie Mullen, former people pleaser and queen of doing way too much, turned holistic life coach and wellness educator for purpose-seeking women of color and allies. Welcome to From a Full Cup. On this podcast, I teach you how to use the 12 pillars of wellness to discover your purpose, up-level your well-being, and create the life of your dreams, because we all deserve to be fulfilled, and you simply can't pour from an empty cup. Through candid conversations, insightful interviews, and motivational nuggets, you'll feel inspired, empowered, and supported as together we navigate this thing called life, holistically and with your well-being at the center. If you're committed to personal development and you're ready for more, you're in the right place. Now let's get started. Hi everyone, I can't wait for you to hear this episode. Today I have the honor of interviewing my good friend Safia Bartholomew. Safia is a writer, a filmmaker, has a PR background, is a comms expert. And what I really enjoyed about this conversation is that Safia has a career background and a business background that covers a variety of different areas and different fields. And so we have this really interesting conversation about the multifacetedness of life and just what she's learned along the way, how she's facing her passions and dreams. And I think that this is such a good conversation because there's so many people, myself included, that don't just fit into only one place. And I think it's so important to see examples of people who are just following their dreams in a way that's authentic to them, even if it takes them different directions. And usually you can find a common thread. Enjoy the episode. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From a Full Cup. I am so excited to have with me today on the show Safia Bartholomew. Safia is a writer, a filmmaker, and communications extraordinaire. And she's my good friend. So, Safia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. You're like one of my oldest friends. We've been friends since teens, I think.
Yeah, so. I was literally thinking about that today, and I was like, was it high school or is it university?
But I know. It was high school.
Yeah, I think it was high school too. And I was like, wow, pat on the back for us for keeping the friendship going. But Safia, I'm you know what? I'm going to be transparent, y'all. Safia did not know she was going to be doing this. She got put on the spot. That's a real friend coming through for you with 30 minutes notice, but we're going to make it happen today. And, Safia, let's just start by talking about your career journey. Okay. It's been really diverse. You've covered so many different fields. So can you share with me, why is it important to you to be multifaceted, and what does that look like for you between your business, your career, and your passion projects?
Well, I always start off by saying that I'm an overall storyteller. From the time that I was young, I was a person that had stacks of magazines, books. I had all of the things. I loved storytelling. So that definitely led me down the path of pursuing just different avenues from it. So I studied communications and English in university. And then from there, I went into PR. I did journalism as well, which led me into writing for other people. So I've been a ghostwriter for the past decade, writing for people, helping people tell the story that they feel called to tell. So whether it is their books or their speeches, articles, any type of thought leadership content. And then from there, I decided that I wanted to tell my own type of story that came from, I guess, my own imagination. So I went into filmmaking because I feel like that's one of the most powerful ways of communicating and storytelling. So I came out with a film called Wallflower, and it came out just a couple of months ago in December. So that was just as you can see, there's usually that connection of storytelling, but I kind of accessed it at different points. And I think the main reason for that is that I'm very much about following your curiosity. I know that a lot of people say just focus on one thing and then excel at that, which I do believe. I think you should prioritize and focus on the things that way you can excel and then move on to the other things. But I also think that it's important to say yes to opportunities that come to you, like this podcast that I had no idea that I'd be recording. So that's really much been, especially now, has been my philosophy about like philosophy is saying yes to things. As long as it's aligned to your like beliefs and aligned to your overall goals and your priorities, then so that's kind of like the path that I took where if something interested me, I went for it, I tried it out, and then it led me to like the next thing. And then all those puzzle pieces add to be a career, basically.
Yeah, you know what? I love that. Actually, the CEO of my company, she talked to us about curiosity, and she said that it's actually one of the traits of happy people. So when they did studies, they found that really happy people were really curious, and these were the people that were changing the world, right? So I think being curious and just exploring and being open to seeing what else is out there, what's possible for me, what if I just tried, right? And it's like, I love what you said, kind of about like everything has been a stepping stone, even though it wasn't necessarily intentional. So it's not that you have like your whole life planned out and you saw yourself exactly in this place that you're in right now, but you just tried something and you're like, okay, then it led you to something else, then it led you to something else. So along those journeys of trying, there's probably some failure in there. So I'd love for you to tell me, has there been anything that you've tried kind of in your career entrepreneurial journey that hasn't quite worked out how you thought it was going to, and maybe would be considered a failure by some people?
Um, I feel like failures, there's always mini failures. I can't think of like one major failure because I think of failures as just kind of like lessons or redirection. So, for example, maybe my career in PR would be not necessarily a failure, but like I didn't end up continuing to pursue that. So, that just kind of taught me that I preferred the writing part of it or the communication strategy part of it as opposed to like the full part that entails being a publicist. So I felt like I saw that as a lesson. And then even now, I'm very new in the whole like filmmaking world. I'm learning the art of screenwriting and producing and putting out your own work as an independent creator. And I feel like there's so much rejection. There's so much no's. There's so much like failures, but I'm seeing those as opportunities for me to like really learn the craft, really learn resilience and learn all of those like traits that will make me so much better.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And then, you know, rejection is important to get over. And I think rejection for a lot of people, it stops them two ways. Sometimes because people are scared of rejection, they don't even try, right? Like they don't even put themselves out there. They don't create their work. They don't try pursue their dreams because they don't want to be rejected. Other people, they try, but once they get that rejection once, they're like, okay, that's it, never again. And they kind of go hide in a corner. But to kind of get used to rejection and almost become comfortable with it, there's an author, Jamie Kern Lima, and I'm reading her book right now. And she's like, she could be rejected a million more times in life. It does nothing to her. She's like, she's been rejected so many times from so many different people. She's just used to it. It's just like she rubs it off her shoulder. It's like a flick of dust and she keeps moving. And I'm like, that's such a good mindset to have. And obviously it takes some time, right? Because those first few rejections, of course they hurt, but over time you just build that resilience, as you said. And every time someone rejected her, she just kept going. I mean, now her company sold for $1 billion, right? She was the first CEO of L'Oreal in its 200-year history, I believe. So she's doing amazing things. And it's one of the main reasons why is because she just, like rejection, she was like, I am not taking this on. I'm just going to keep pursuing what I feel called to do.
I was going to say, I can't remember who the author was, but they were saying to have like a rejection list, basically. Like you're going out with the purpose, like you're kind of creating a list of things that you want to do, almost kind of like a bucket list, but your goal is to kind of like get those rejections out of the way. So maybe you're going up to people, you're asking for the sale, you're going up to maybe if you're like single, you're going up to someone to like, ask them out or something like that. But the purpose is to get that rejection. So that way, as you were saying with the founder, what was it, L'Oreal, you said?
She's the founder of It Cosmetics, which was purchased by L'Oreal. I probably didn't explain that.
Right. So that way you don't feel the emotions attached to it, basically. So yeah, I agree.
Rejectionless. Maybe I'll work towards that. I don't know if I'm quite there yet. Yeah, I'm like halfway.
Still,
Yeah. But it's okay. We talk about it and we still move forward. And that's the thing too, right? It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be that like either rejection doesn't impact you at all or it impacts you every single time. Like you can still be rejected and still move forward. And I feel like we're probably like that. We're like, oh man, oh, that hurt. Okay, let me try again. Right.
exactly.
And so the more that we do that, like that's, I think when you are driven by a calling in your life or just a desire to do something greater, or a desire to make an impact or a contribution to the world, that is your why. And that's stronger than the rejection. And that's kind of what keeps you going, even though it can be painful.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now, like, I would describe you in this multifaceted, kind of lens, you're balancing being a creative with also being a business person, right? And so sometimes that can be a bit of a struggle because a lot of times when you're creatives, they just want to release their ideas into the world. But it's like you've got to have strategy, you've got to look at the numbers, you've got to have the plans, you've got to put things on paper. What has that balance looked like for you?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that part out as far as how to balance the two. Because, you want to go with the things that really light you up and that you're passionate about. So I would love to just kind of create and be in that imaginative bubble all the time. But there is the reality of managing a business and working with other people and all of those parts. So the thing that I'm learning is, and I have a business partner, he's really good at this, is he focuses on waking up and writing right away. Because then at least the thing that's most important to you, which is creation, you're getting that out of the day and you put yourself. With me, I personally like to have a little bit more. I like to, pray and journal and just do like I kind of like to be with myself first and then go to the creation. So that's what I've been trying to do is once I kind of get those things to myself first, then I'll create or I'll put aside like specific days for the creation part, whether it's, Friday, I'm going to do some all day writing or do some learning or whatever the case may be. While the business sides, I'll try to like, basically it's time blocking your day is the overall thing would be.
Yeah. And what I love though is that between you and your business partner, you have different strategies. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really important to know your own self and what is going to work for you because what works for one does not necessarily work for all, right? So it's like if you know you want that personal time to yourself that's not related to work, but it's just filling your own cup and your own well-being, that's so good for you that you know that and can kind of put that first. And for someone else who maybe needs to put their work first and then they're going to maybe fill their cup later on in the day, there's no judgments. Like whatever works for you, like to thine own self be true, right? So I think that's great.
I love that.
Yeah. And so I know it's my favorite quote or one of my favorite quotes. Okay. So I find your journey really inspiring and I really enjoyed watching Wallflower because I think for me, just kind of seeing that come to life, I was like, wait, Safia knows how to do film. Like I just think, I don't know, you're like a celebrity in my mind now, but I'm like, but it's my son. Like it was just like really cool, right? Watching you do the Kickstarter and just seeing everybody rally behind that project. And then to see that it gets awards, it was, and that it's been at different film festivals. And it's like, you didn't even have that background at one point. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we won this award. Oh, we're here. Oh, we're here. We're going to Essence. We're going to this. And I was like, wait, what? Like that was mind blowing for me. And I find that very inspirational and very encouraging. So at this point, like what kind of legacy do you want to leave for the next generation?
Ooh, that is a big question. I would say my legacy that I want to leave is like, I love what you said that you were like, oh, I didn't even know that side of you. I didn't, it was something that's unexpected. That I think would be my legacy is to show people that whatever you envisioned is really possible for you. And it might sound like cliche or, typical, but I really do believe, that I really want people, especially women, to really feel like empowered and powerful about their decisions and just going with what they feel good about and acting on those like whatever it is that they desire.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And it's very fitting that it's Women's Month right now. And I love this month because there's just so much collaboration amongst women. There's so much support. There's so much encouragement. And so for you, have you had any collaborative experiences along this journey that have kind of enriched you and even offered you support in what might not always be easy times?
You know what? Speaking of Women's Month, like I feel like collaboration has definitely been like a huge theme in my career. Like, there's so many women that have spoke my name in rooms or, opened the door for me, passed along opportunities, that have worked with, like, they've been working on something and, said, Safia's great for this. Let's work together on it. So I think in that way, like I've definitely been blessed with having so many women in my life that I've had such great collaboration with, but also just overall taking it outside of women. I have so many great partners in general. Like as I was speaking about before, my business partner, we just really have the same, like really similar values and perspectives on things. So I found that working with him has been so easy and seamless, and that we are just really focused on like creating and doing things that maybe we never thought were possible and really going for that. I feel like it's so much easier when you can collaborate with someone and really help you to take your vision to the next level. I know some people prefer to work on their own or to be a business owner on their own, but I've just definitely seen in so many ways, whether in my career and my businesses creatively, of partnering with people to really accelerate your vision.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad that you've had that positive experience because I really believe that we're created in life to be in a relationship with people, right? And I'm not saying that you need to be team all the time, because I'm definitely not like that at all times. But when you find people that you're in alignment with, and I think that's really the key, it opens up opportunities and possibilities, and there comes a sense of ease, right? Because there's a distribution of workload, there's a distribution of ideas, there's the opportunity to exchange ideas, right? But it's really important that who you're working with does have those shared values and the shared vision, because if we're not headed to the same place or we're not at least looking in the same direction, this project is not going to end well, and the journey along the way is going to be very bumpy, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that happens. Sometimes you think you have the same vision, and then shortly after you're like, you know what, we're not on the same page.
Yeah.
And at that point it's really better to just separate and say, you know what, it's been real, but we just can't continue to go down this path together because I'm no longer joyful and I'm no longer getting out of this what I want to, and I don't like how I feel in this process, so what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's about both people just having, exactly as you said, like alignment and knowing what you both want and going in that direction. Because there has been times where like I've partnered with people and I've been on the side where, because I didn't necessarily have clarity in what I wanted or where I was going and what my bigger vision was, it just didn't work for the partnership, So I think sometimes you could be the problem too, so I think it's just about good alignment.
And good for you for calling yourself out on that, right? Because sometimes we need to take that time to be introspective and realize, like, you know what, maybe I'm the one who messed up, or maybe I wasn't bringing something to the table. And it doesn't mean that you have to be hard on yourself. It's just like being honest with yourself and seeing, could I have done something different here? Could I have improved the situation? Yeah. Was there anything that I was lacking in? And then that gives you opportunities to grow, right? Mm-hmm. But also, and this is like a Caribbean term, but it's like we say force rape. You don't want to force rape something. So when you have a mango, right? And this is the only way I know the word to be. I don't know if it happens in other situations. But in a Caribbean, like, you have a mango, it's not ready yet. Maybe they'll say, okay, put it in a paper bag and put the paper bag on top of the fridge or with some towels. Honestly, everybody has their own methods. But when you taste the mango, it tastes good. And yes, you're able to eat it like the next day. But it's never as sweet and as juicy as if you just waited for it to fully ripen on the tree. Okay, so sometimes instead of force ripening something or ripening something, you just need to let it sit on the tree. If you weren't ready at the time, if you didn't have full clarity, that's okay. Like, clarity doesn't come in the snap of a finger. Clarity comes over time and also through mistakes and just through wrong paths, right? It's when you go down the wrong path, you're like, I don't like how this feels, or this is not in alignment for me. This is not fulfilling. That gives you information to now turn and go a different direction. And now guess what happens? All of a sudden you have clarity. So it takes some time, and if you're not ready, it just means that opportunity was not there. There's an abundance of opportunities. So I know
Yes.
sometimes it can be like, oh man, I missed out on that. But it's like, it's okay. You weren't ready. Guess what? In a few more months, a few more weeks, years, days, whatever, new opportunities will come that you will be ready for.
Yeah, it just wasn't the season for that opportunity. And then you just learn from that. And then your next opportunity will be so much better and so much more aligned with you.
Exactly. And you know, I'm all about alignment. All right, this is our last question, Safia, before we go into rapid fire. If you could go back in time and give your younger self advice, now that you're where you're at in your kind of entrepreneurship and career journey, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I have a few things. So I would say be, even though this kind of dispels what we were just talking about, sometimes I think you have to jump before you even feel ready. Like, I think a lot of the times we wait and we're like, oh, I've got to be ready. I got to have X credentials, whatever it says on, whether it's a job description, you feel like you got to hit every one of them. But I think a lot of the times people, there's other people that are just jumping for it and going for it, and they get a lot further ahead because you're sitting overthinking and worrying and feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I don't have enough skills, or whatever it is. So I would definitely say that's the thing that I've learned more so in my later years. When I was younger, I was very much more hesitant and overthinking, and just not so sure about if I should take opportunities, while I'm a lot more ready to leap to say yes for that, to say yes to things. The next thing is that I'm definitely still learning, and I would say to my younger self is, I think there's this book called Brand Better, and it is about, you can't just do things and expect to be recognized for it. You gotta be out there, and you gotta do the thing and talk about it. Be strategic about telling people the things that you're doing, because if you don't, then no one's gonna know about it. You're just gonna kind of be sitting in that same position. You won't get the promotion, you won't get the opportunity. So I personally have to be better about that, in all honesty and all transparency. But it is a skill that I'm trying to learn more. When you're meeting people, really confidently telling them what you do. I came out with this film telling people, oh, I created this film Wallflower, you should go watch it. Things like that, being a little bit more fearless about promoting yourself is definitely the thing that I would say. Because I think when I was younger, I definitely expected, like, oh, if I work hard, I'll definitely be recognized, people will notice, but that does not always happen at all.
Yeah, and actually, I really like that last one you gave, because I feel like I need to work on that too. And it's funny because Lord knows I talk a lot, but so it depends on what I'm talking about. But for instance, I don't always talk about my podcast, and like actually for the whole first season, success to me was just getting the podcast out. Okay, so the fact that I figured out how to do a podcast and recorded the episodes, I was like, this is great. But then I was like, okay, well, Natalie, at some point you should probably care about listeners and like getting people to hear what you've done. And because I think that I put a lot of work into this podcast. Okay. This is a labor of love, but I'm really proud of it. But if I'm really proud of it and nobody knows it exists, like what's the point? Because the whole point of the podcast is to impact people, right?
Yeah.
Is to impact women of color, allies, anybody who wants to work on their well-being, to fill their cup, work on personal development, right? So if nobody knows about it, then how can they do those things? And then how am I fulfilling my own why? So you're totally right. We need to promote ourselves, promote our work, especially when it's with good intention, right? Like sometimes people are promoting themselves for nonsense, for absolute nonsense. But if you're doing something where you're serving others, you're helping others, you're impacting the world in a positive way, yeah, pat yourself on the back and get a megaphone and let the whole world know. All right, Safia, this has been a great conversation. We are going to head into rapid fire. Okay, so first question, your favorite decade of music?
90s for sure. I'm a 90s R&B and hip hop head for sure. I still listen to 90s music as if it was, as if it came
last
out
week. I love it. Okay, a book that you think everyone should read?
By Don Miguel Ruiz. I'm trying to remember. It's the Four Agreements, I believe it is. I definitely, that shifted my whole thinking, especially don't take things personal. That was my biggest agreement.
Yes, my husband loves that book actually. And it is a good one. Okay, what's your favorite way to fill your cup?
For me, I'm a very much like quiet time, bath time girl. Like that is my time to like reset and just think and really reflect about my day. So I'm a bath girl for sure.
I could see that for you. I can see that. And in 3 words, what's your version of a wealthy life? And for me, wealthy is WELLTHY.
3 words: freedom for sure, fulfillment, and love.
You see why we're friends, folks. That's it right there. Look at the alignment. Safia, thank you so much for doing me this huge favor and honor and coming on this show. I want you to tell the listeners how can they stay in touch with you, learn more about your work, and connect with you.
This was so fun. Thank you for having me. You can connect with me on Instagram at my name, so Safia Bartholomew. Same thing on LinkedIn. If you want to check out my film Wallflower that we were talking about, it's Wallflower the series on Instagram, or you can check it out on Fuse TV. Go to the website and you can actually watch the film.
So all of those links will be in the show notes. So please do go follow Safia and reach out and go watch Wallflower. It was really, really good. All right, Safia, thank you once again. And to the listeners, continue to serve yourself, your loved ones, and your communities from a full cup.